Hi everyone! Welcome to Moonstone Makes. My name is Tommy. Thank you so much for being here. It has been a while. I think it's been like 6 or 7 months since my last video, even longer since my last knitting video. So let's do a little recap. This is Moonstone Makes, my YouTube channel, where in a version of my life where I can make the time for myself to sit down and record videos, I like to talk about knitting and crafting and books and do vlogs. So in this video, I'm gonna have some knitting, a little bit of sewing, a couple of books that I'm currently reading, and a little bit of a life update. Since it's been so long since I've talked to you and I'm not really on Instagram anymore, let's let you know what I've been up to. So some good things and some bad things. I'm gonna start with the bad news first just because I wanna get it out of the way. I'm not very good at conveying bad news, but Squirrel Cat, who you may know from my YouTube channel, my podcast used to be called Squirrel Pie Productions after my cat Squirrel. She passed away several months ago, and I don't have too much to say about it. I just wanted to let you know she was a huge part of our household. She was almost 20 years old, and I'd had her since I was like 20 years old, and she's been around on this YouTube channel since the very beginning. So I wanted to let you know she was a wonderful and happy cat, and she lived to be very old. And I think she had a pretty great life, and she made all of our lives here in this household better. But yeah, she's no longer with us. So we are petless currently in the Trujillo house, which is weird. The next thing I wanted to tell you guys about is that I got a new job. I started working at my local yarn shop, which is called Yarn. It's in Eureka, California. If you're ever here in Northern California in Humboldt County, you should stop by Yarn, and I would love to say hi. It's really great. I love this yarn shop. It's been around almost as long as I've lived in Humboldt County, and it's a fantastic yarn shop. I've always loved it, and now I get to work there. I'm only working a couple days a week because, as you may know from my previous YouTube videos, I have 2 young kids. They're 2 and almost 5 years old. And so I'm mostly still, you know, doing their thing during most days. But for a couple days a week, I get to work at a yarn shop, and it's so much fun. And it's very exciting to just be in and among yarn all day long and talking to people who want to talk about yarn and knitting and stuff like that. And it's really actually kind of revived my desire to knit, because as you may have gathered in the last 6 or 7 months, my knitting mojo has been super down, and even before that too. And what I'm going to show you today is everything I've knit in half a year. And it's not very much, but working at a yarn shop is really bringing the desire back to me to really get into some yarn and work with it and make it into things. And seeing our customers' projects and stuff like that, even, it's really inspiring. So that's been amazing. Just a couple more admin-y things before we get into the knitting. I have recently restocked the Moonstone Dyeworks shop online. Another thing that I have been not as active with as I would like is my yarn dyeing. So Moonstone Dyeworks is my small business, and the shop has been mostly empty for a pretty long time, but I have a bunch of yarn up in the shop right now. I just put it all up yesterday, and I'm not going to show you it all here, but if you're interested, you can check the link below for Moonstone Dyeworks and check it out. I am going to show you a couple of the yarns that I have in the shop just because they're projects that I'm working on, and so if you're interested, I think you should go check it out. I appreciate the support, and thank you very much. The last thing before we get into the knitting is that I want to thank everybody over on Patreon, because even though I haven't been recording videos, there are still some of you with me over on Patreon, and I'm so appreciative. If you want to support the channel at all, that is the place to do it. I have a link down below, and there are tiers in my Patreon where you can get yarn mailed to your house every month, either a full surprise skein or a mini surprise skein. And I'm also doing digital art. I've been doing this for a little while now, where I got an iPad, I got Procreate, I learned Procreate, and I'm in love with it, and I'm still making digital art, mostly for phone backgrounds, sometimes calendar pages, and so that is available every month for some tiers as well. So thank you for those of you who are still with me on Patreon. I appreciate you so much. And if anybody is interested in checking it out, please do so. It helps me out, and I thank you. Okay, should we talk about knitting? Let's talk about some knitting. This is everything I've knit in the past 6 months, even longer, because you've seen one of these things before and I'm just still working on it. So the first thing I'm working on is a pair of socks. They are living in this really wonderful moon bag. The brand is Emerald, I think. I don't know, that's what the tag says. I'm not exactly sure. I want to say it's like Emerald City Bags or something. I can't remember. It's been a while since I got this bag, but I love this bag. So I'm working on a pair of socks out of some Moonstone Dyeworks yarn. And this is it. It's the merino sock base. So it's superwash merino and nylon. And this is the Dunes colorway. And this is a colorway that I have in the shop right now. And I really wanted some warm toned neutral socks because a lot of my socks are flashy and bright and very pink based. And I needed some socks to wear with outfits that fit more of like a brown tone theme. So I decided to dye up this colorway specifically to make myself socks, and I really like it. So this is what the socks look like right now. I'm knitting them on my Chiaogu mini twist interchangeables. This is a US size 1, and these are my very favorite sock needles. It's really nice to have an interchangeable set for sock needles. For different lengths of cable and for different sizes, because with some yarns I like 0s, some yarns I like 1s or 1.5s. And you don't have, the nice thing about this set I feel like is that you don't have to buy the whole set. It's more economical, it was for me anyway, to just buy the tips that I needed and the cables that I wanted. And I love them. They're my favorite sock needles. They're so great. The cable is just like, for me, the perfect sock magic loop cable. Anyway, so for these socks, I did what I usually do, which is I cast on 64 stitches for the cuff using a German twisted cast on. And I did a 2x2 ribbing. And then they're just plain stockinette vanilla socks. At one point, probably right about here, I did decrease down to 60 stitches. So when I do that, what I do is I go to my back of the foot, back of the leg stitches, and I decrease 1 stitch here, 1 stitch here, and then 1 stitch down here and 1 stitch down here. And that way it just kind of decreases gradually and evenly towards my ankle, because I have found by knitting a lot of socks that I really like more room up where it starts to get to my calf, and I like it a little snugger down at my ankle. And I can't achieve that for my body with 1 stitch count all the way up and down. So I like to start with 4 more stitches than I end with. And I did a slip stitch heel flap and a gusset. And now I'm just doing the decreases for the gusset. I am really enjoying working on these. Vanilla socks are my absolute favorite. I did notice, even though I'm not on Ravelry or Instagram that much anymore, I do kind of go on it occasionally, and I saw that Stephen West has a mystery sock knit along, possibly right now. I think it's right now during the month of July, and I was super tempted for like 5 seconds, and then I stopped being tempted. My next project is my brioche scarf. I have been working on this for so long. If you've watched any of my last knitting videos a very long time ago, you will have seen it. It is living in my Gasly's bag, which is a project bag that I made and that I love to show because I'm very proud of it, and I think the fabric is super duper cool, and it's got a unicorn on it. A unicorn slash Pegasus, because she has wings. So I am knitting this out of Elsa wool, which is a yarn maker that makes, no, what breed is it? What breed are you? Cormo. They make Cormo yarn. And so this is the cake that I'm working from right now. It's their sport weight yarn, and this is like the medium gray or something like that. And then I also, when this runs out, I am going to be moving to this, which is the same sport weight base. It's their woolen spun sport weight, and this is in their light gray. And this is my second skein of this color. and then I'll end with this color. And here's what I have. So this is an improvised pattern. It's just one color, brioche, back and forth, until the end of time. So I just wanted a scarf, just a rectangular, long, kind of skinny scarf. And I wanted it to be brioche. And it's wonderful. I love it. I'm just doing brioche back and forth, and it's going to be 2/3 this color, and then the last third is going to be this lighter color. So I cast on, let's count, either 67 or 68 stitches. And I remember, if I remember correctly, because I cast this on so long ago, I cast this on like several times to try to get my stitch count how I wanted it. And yeah, so it's somewhere around just under 70 stitches across. Sport weight yarn. I'm using a size US 5 needle. And these are my Licca interchangeables, which is my other favorite needle set. And what I'm doing is I'm starting just the brioche stitch all the way across. And when I get to the last stitch, I think I put my yarn in front and then slip it. And then I turn it around and start over. And that's giving me this edge that I want. So it's kind of a clean, seamless edge with the brioche. Before, when I first started this scarf, I wasn't doing any slip stitches at the edge, and I was getting this edge that had these it was kind of like a garter edge. And so it's a little messier, and I wasn't quite happy with it, so I just started experimenting as I was knitting, and I finally figured out what I had to do to get the kind of edge that I wanted. And obviously I did not go back and redo anything, but you can see this is the point right here where I switched, and it's this is the original like no slip stitches. And then right here I tried experimenting by slipping the first stitch of every row, and then I decided to try to slip the last stitch of every row instead. And that's where I got it right, and that's this edge here. And I'm very happy with it. So I figured it out. And yeah, this is great. I love this yarn. It's woolen and it's soft and it's squishy and it's cormo-y, and I just adore it. And it's going to be long, and who knows when I'll be done with it. I cast this on a pretty long time ago with the intention of being able to wear it last winter, and it is now summer. So maybe this winter I will get to enjoy it. I hope so. I'm excited about it. Okay, so the last thing that I've been working on, I really, really, really want the thing. Here it is, let me just show you. So I cast on a sweater. This is the sweater number 21 by My Favorite Things, and I am using Moonstone Dyeworks yarn, my yarn, in the bulky base in the Medusa colorway. So here's what I have so far. And I'll put it up here. This sweater is a drop sleeve, oversized, all over open mesh sweater, which is exactly what I wanted. I've been looking for something like this, and this was the thing that fit the bill the best. I would have preferred it in a lighter weight yarn, but I actually am breaking pattern and going a little lighter because the pattern calls for holding a bulky weight together with a lace weight. And so I'm just using bulky. I'm doing the second size, and this is what I have so far. So it's really super open mesh. I'm using really super big needles. It's a US size 13, which is taking the fun out of it a little bit for me, because doing all over mesh lace with a giant needle isn't the funnest for me. Like, I thought it would be really easy and quick, and like I would make this sweater super fast and it'd be like no biggie. But yeah, my hands don't love this, but it's okay. It's going slower than I thought it was going to, but I still am really excited about the sweater itself. So here is the yarn. And like I said, this is the Medusa colorway in the bulky base. This isn't a base that I do very often, but I kind of got it specifically for this sweater. So there is more of this bulky Medusa in the shop if you're interested. There's also Medusa on other bases. But I really like this colorway. It's kind of like a warm gray with greens in it. It's very mossy and earthy. And I really like how it's knitting up in this pattern. I think it looks really good, and I think the sweater is going to come out really nicely. I just kind of want it to be done. This is kind of where I'm at. This is the front neckline, and so I think it's kind of going to be like this. This is the shoulder seam, so I think I'm going to be picking up here and knitting the back, and then I think the sleeves come in here somewhere. I'm not really sure. I'm actually a little confused by the construction. I'm not somebody who reads ahead in a pattern. I just kind of start following it and see where it takes me, but I don't know that I've come across a construction like this before, because in the picture it looks like it's drop sleeved, but in the way that it's knitting up, it's kind of looking like raglan that's knit in pieces, but it's not. So I don't know what's going on. We'll see. I'm on an adventure, and we're going to see how it goes. So while that might be all the knitting, is that all I want to say about my knitting? I'm using, let's see, I'm using 4 skeins of this yarn. Here's the other ones. And this is what I have left of the current one. I'm almost done. Okay, so that's all the knitting, but that is not all the crafting because I made napkins. I did some sewing, which I was very proud of myself for. So my family uses cloth napkins, and we had an original batch of cloth napkins that I made and that I showed off on my podcast a long time ago. And those eventually fell apart. And so I had to make new ones, and I just did it one day. I don't love sewing. I want the products of sewing, but sewing isn't an act that I really enjoy, so it took me a long time to really like get up the nerve to just sit down and do it, even though napkins are super duper easy. So I'm going to show you the napkins that I made, and then I'll kind of tell you how I did it. So what I did is I just went through my fabric stash and I found any scraps that I could that were the right size-ish. So you'll have seen some of these before. This is one of the napkins, and this is a print that I made a project bag out of once. This is really cool fabric, and I can't remember what I made out of it before, but it's got moths and spider webs. I may have just lined a project bag with this in the past, but I may have also made a skirt. I cannot remember. If I did, I don't have it anymore. This is some double gauze. So these were both quilting cotton. This is double gauze. And this is fabric that I made a dress out of. So a long time ago, Kristen of Woolenvine was very into this one dress pattern, and I cannot remember what it was called. But I made a couple of them myself. They ended up not fitting me very well. It's just not a style that goes well on my body. But this was one of the fabrics that I made one of those dresses out of. And it actually, this particular double gauze was like super stiff when I first got it. And when I made the dress out of it, the dress was super stiff and I didn't wear it that much. But now that I've made a napkin out of it and we've used it a lot and washed it a lot, it really like softened up and got a lot more drapey. So yeah, this is really pretty fabric that I used to have a dress out of. This is some random quilting cotton that I want to show you a good part of. Where's the good part? So this has got unicorns on it. No, it's got dogs on it. This has got dogs on it and bunnies. I don't know if you can see the dog. There's a dog right there. There's Bunny somewhere down there. Anyway, I don't know where I got this from, but this is some random quilting cotton that I had. And same thing for this. I think I got this in a fat quarter from my local fabric shop, Fabric Temptations. And this has got unicorns on it. I actually have made a bag out of this as well. And then the other side of this one is the only one that's different on the other side. This has frogs on it. So what I do when I make napkins is I cut out 2 squares. I think maybe 15 inches by 15 inches or something like that. And I put them together right sides facing. I sew a seam all the way around the edge, leaving a gap about that big, and then I turn it inside out, kind of poke out all the points with a chopstick, and then sew another seam around those edges, and then close up my opening. And then all the while I'm also ironing it and stuff, which is half of why I hate sewing, is I hate ironing. But that's it. That's the whole entire process of making napkins. And I made, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of them? I actually think there's one more, but it might be dirty. And these are going to last us probably a couple years until I need to make a new batch. So I really, really like using cloth napkins. Everybody in my house keeps the same napkin all day long, and we keep it on the table. And then at the end of the day, I throw them in the laundry, and we wash them every day, and the next day we use new ones. And we have enough to where, like, we're not using the same napkins every single day. We pretty much all, like, every other day is how many we have. So they're really easy to do, and they last a really long time. And I really, really like just having handmade napkins out of cool fabric. I like having a mix of like weird and like kind of little kiddish, but also like really pretty fabrics for napkins. So I made those, and I'm pretty happy about it. I was happy when it was done. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about are the 2 books that I'm reading right now. If you've ever watched my book videos, you might know I read a lot of books, and I also haven't done any dedicated book videos this year. So I've read a lot of books that I haven't done any videos for. But all I'm going to tell you about today are the 2 books that I'm currently reading. So the first book that I'm reading is actually a book that I picked up on a recent trip of mine and Colin's to Ashland, Oregon. We celebrated our 10th wedding anniversary a couple weeks ago, but last weekend, I think. We took a one-night trip. We drove 4 hours to Ashland, Oregon, stayed one night, and then drove home. And it was super fun. We ate and we drank, and I went book shopping, and it was the best. And one of the books that I got was Breasts and Eggs by Mayako Kawakami. And this is a Japanese novel translated from Japanese by Sam Bett and David Boyd. I'm really excited about this book. I've been wanting to read this author for a long time. This will be my first book of hers. And I don't typically go into a book knowing too much about it. I like to avoid reading like the backs of books and stuff like that. But from what I know and from what I can tell you, I think this is, and I'm not very far in. This is where I am. So this is like it's a family story, kind of multi-generational, and the characters who are in it right now are 2 sisters and one of their daughters. They live in Tokyo, or at least one of the sisters lives in Tokyo. And I think it's just kind of like a family history / maybe family drama, focusing on all of these women who are in this family and what they go through. I think there's a lot about the body in this book, a person's body, and I think that's all I know about it. So far, I'm at the point where you get a little bit of family history from the main character's point of view, and her sister comes to town to visit her with her daughter. Her daughter is, I think, like 15 or something like that, and she has suddenly stopped talking to her mother or around her mother, and she speaks to other people in her life, like at school and stuff, like normal, but she has stopped speaking to her mother and started just like writing things to her. And so, I mean, that's almost nothing to go on. I know almost nothing about this book. I think it's going to be a character study. I think it's going to be feminist. I think I'm going to like it. I like it so far. So that is Breasts and Eggs. And then the other book I'm listening to on audiobook right now, and it is called In the Lives of Puppets. It's TJ Klune's newest book, and that's what the cover looks like. And this book, while this book I think is pretty sincere and maybe a little heavy, this book is really fun. It's kind of an adventure story, the whole like ragtag gang of, misfits kind of going on an adventure kind of thing, which I love, especially in science fiction. It is science fiction. The main character, Victor, he is a human, and he lives with robots. His father is an android, and he has saved a couple of androids. Well, one like nurse bot and one robot vacuum from the junkyard, and like repaired them, and now they're like his two best friends. And then they're in the scrapyard, in the junkyard, and they find another android, and they bring him back to life, and then like the whole adventure starts happening. And it's wonderful, it's so fun, and it's also got pretty heavy themes in it, but among all of this like just fun and funny adventure, the nurse, whose name is Nurse Ratched, is very funny and just is constantly joking about like killing things and also sexuality, and she's very funny. The robot vacuum, what's his name again? Rambo. Rambo is the robot vacuum's name, and he's got a lot of anxiety, and but he's also, I mean, it's a fun and funny book, and I'm really enjoying it. And that is it. That's everything that's been happening around here. That's my knitting. Those are my books. That's stuff that's going on in my life. What about you? It's been a long time since I've talked to any of you, especially because I have kind of disappeared from the internet because I haven't made any videos, and I grew weary of Instagram. I'm starting to inkle back into it a little bit. I don't know. I got the urge the other day. So I would love to hear from you. I would love for you to say hi in the comments. Tell me what's going on with you, what you've been working on, what you've been reading. I would love to hear it. If you're interested in checking out my shop, please do so. The link is below. I have a ton of yarn up that I would love to get from my home into other people's homes to actually get used. And if you're interested in the Patreon, check that out too. This month's drawing was a jellyfish. So if you're into jellyfish. Okay. I guess that's it. I guess I say goodbye now. That's it. Okay, I'm doing it. I'm saying goodbye. Goodbye. I love you. Have a wonderful day. Do some crafting, do some reading, do whatever it is that makes you happy. If you have to work, that's fine too. Maybe try to squeeze in your fun stuff afterwards. Also, I got an espresso maker. Colin bought me an espresso maker for my birthday this year. Also, I turned 40. Oh yeah, that was big. My birthday was in May and I turned 40. I am 40 now. I don't know what that means, but he got me an espresso maker, and so I have been freaking loving that. If you've been here for a lot of my vlogs, you'll know how much I love coffee, and I typically make pour over coffee or cold brew, but now I'm making espressos. It's so exciting. Okay, now I'm really gonna say goodbye. Goodbye. I love you. Have a good day. See you next time, hopefully soon. Oh yeah, also I started playing a tabletop RPG game with some people I met on the internet, and it's so much fun. It's not Dungeons and Dragons. I still want to play Dungeons and Dragons, but it's a game called Vassin, and also we're going to do a one-off of this game called Thirsty Sword Lesbians. Yeah, I bought dice. I'm buying dice now. It's like a whole thing. Okay, that's it. Bye.